Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Monday, June 6, 2022. A psychiatrist has given eye-opening and jaw-dropping testimony in Los Angeles. And I say eye-opening, it is eye-opening and jaw-dropping during a civil trial involving comedian Bill Cosby. What did she say that has social media and others in an uproar? We'll discuss that. Also, the Temptations, the legendary Grammy Award-winning group led by founding member Otis Williams, are kicking off their summer and fall concert seasons this month with fan favorites such as My Girl, Just My Imagination, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, and more, with a special new member of the Fabulous Five. We will reveal who the newest member is and why fans should be excited. Also, an extensive first of its kind report by a California task force on the effects of slavery and racism in America has been released. And now the question is how much and what kind of reparations might the state pay? All this and more this morning on Let It Be Known with James Wright of the Washington Informer. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Stacy. So good to see you today.
Always good to see you, James. James, we begin in California. The Black press is not in Los Angeles and not covering the civil trial of Bill Cosby as we did the criminal trial. However, with that said, there was one bit of testimony that we have come across that just piqued our interest and has caused quite the head turn. Forensic psychiatrist and expert for the plaintiff, Dr. Barbara Ziv, testified under oath that a white woman would not make a false allegation against a Black man today, nor 30 years, 40 years, or 50 years ago. She also stated that a false allegation made against a Black man by a white woman would have only happened during the Jim Crow era. A shockingly tone-deaf, if not racist statement. The civil trial of Judith Huth against Bill Cosby is taking place in Los Angeles and continues this week. At the trial on Friday, Kimberly Burr and Margie Shapiro, both who testified in Cosby's criminal trial, took the witness stand to lodge complaints against the comedian. Burr, whom courtroom observers told the Black press couldn't seem to remember much, claimed that Cosby invited her into his trailer on the set of Let's Do It Again. While in Mr. Cosby's trailer, Burr alleges that Cosby pounced on her aggressively and put his tongue in her mouth while her mother, brother, and family members were standing right outside the door of his trailer. However, she says she never uttered a word to anyone and she went on to appear as an extra in the boxing scene of the film Let's Do It Again. Cosby's lawyer, Jennifer Bonjean, pointed out that Burr was shown happy and cheering in the photos of the day's events. Meanwhile, Marjorie Shapiro alleged that Mr. Cosby drugged and raped her at the Playboy Mansion on November 18, 1975, when she was 19 years old. However, attorneys pointed out that on that very day, Shapiro was in court answering a felony charge of grand theft. Judith Huth, the plaintiff in the case, also changed her story by her own admission at least 3 times, including during a television interview in 2008. Cosby is 85 years old. He's not expected to attend the trial, citing COVID concerns and his blindness and other logistical issues. But really, the story for us, James, is the forensic psychiatrists who claim that it is a myth that white women falsely accuse Black women, and has been a myth since Jim Crow. This is a forensic expert who also testified in the criminal trial.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me how white supremacy has really blinded people, so-called educated people, to what reality is and to the history of this country. Stacey, I don't need to tell you that since we got to this country, Black men have been lynched, burned, and killed, and maimed, and tortured because they either looked funny at a white woman or even touched a white woman or had
Allegedly looked at a
sexual
white
relations.
woman.
Uh, you know,
Emmett
I
Till,
mean, and
allegedly.
then this doctor is going to sit up there and say that, and that's just outrageous. I mean, what
Yeah,
planet is she on?
I have never heard anyone. Even you look at. I hate to say it like this, but you put on a Klan's robe and hat, and even I haven't heard it from them. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
this is hard. Dr. Chavis is waiting to join us as well, but this is good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning. Good morning to both of you. And the false pseudo scientific testimony by the so called expert witness is just another indication of how deep seated racism is, even among those who I can't say who are educated, who are miseducated. And that is the problem with quote unquote expert witness. This lady is an expert in perpetuating the myths, the stereotypes, the foolishness about Black men vis-a-vis women of who are not women of color, and I think particularly white women, and I think that this is part of the historic um, justification of the suffering that has been inflicted, that continues to be inflicted on African American men as well as women in America in 2022. And so that's why I'm hoping that this year, in particular, that Black folks resoundingly go out to vote in record numbers. And we'll be discussing and announcing a major campaign at our national convention. But Stacey, this is endemic. And the fact that I know the defense attorneys objected, we'll see how the trial judge will rule. But because in civil cases, there's they permit a larger latitude than they do in quote unquote criminal cases. But in any event, it should not be tolerated. I agree with James. It is outrageous. But unfortunately, the system of justice in America, both on the civil side and the criminal side, that system of justice itself is outrageous.
Well, no matter what side of the fence you might sit on when it comes to the Cosby case, this is about the so-called forensic psychiatrist, this forensic expert, women falsely accuse Black women and have that calling that a myth and saying that hasn't happened since the Jim Crow era is one of the most outrageous things you could hear. It's really, I'm just a little surprised that more are not in an uproar over that.
It also puts all Black men on notice.
It does.
Driving while Black, walking while Black, flying while Black, breathing while Black. There are people out here who claim to be so-called experts. It's a setup, for more of these civil suits, for more of these claims, false claims, and for more of this outright, I got trying to find the right word, that seeks to undermine our even presence anywhere in the world. Yeah. Keep in mind, she's making this statement while the browning of America is accelerating. She's making this statement to candor and to play to the fears of those who fear the browning of America. And so all of a sudden now you're going to have more brothers being falsely accused, more brothers being lynched in modern lynching terms. And some will even lose their lives as a result of these kind of myths and stereotypes.
Well, Bobby Henry, our distinguished publisher of the West Side Gazette, writes in that this is one of the reasons why they don't want our history being taught, because it would shed light on the atrocities and hate that were and is perpetrated against Black people by white people. We're going to leave it there, James and Dr. Chavis. Next up, hitting the road with original Temptations member Otis Williams will be longtime lead vocalist Ron Tyson and Terry Weeks, and recently new to the group, Grammy-nominated vocalist Anthony Tony Grant and new member Jawan Jackson from the original cast of the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical Ain't Too Proud, the life and times of the Temptations. Jackson played in the starring role as beloved original Temptation Melvin Franklin. Jawan Jackson will be making his debut with the Temptations this month as the bass vocalist. Born and raised in the heart of Motown, Jawan Jackson is a native of Detroit. He made his professional debut starring in Broadway's Motown the Musical. In Broadway's Ain't Too Proud, the life and times of the Temptations, he originated the leading role of Melvin Franklin and earned a Grammy nomination for the musical's cast album. He has also appeared in several feature films, television movies, and specials. This is it's a great thing, James and Dr. Chavis. This young man got to play one of his idols, Melvin Franklin, and now he's filling that role.
Well, absolutely. Well, Detroit continues to be the cradle of outstanding, not just performers, but outstanding cultural geniuses. And this will bode well to keep the legacy of the Temptations alive. We wish them well. As you know, we have a close affinity between the Black press of America and the Temptations. They actually did a special song in salute of the Black press of America. And we should find a way, Stacey, at our convention to play that song so all the delegates can hear that rendition.
Well, I'll do you one better. We are in contact with Otis Williams, who is trying to clear his schedule to attend the Legacy Awards. So you heard it here first. He is hoping to attend, and so we'll see what happens. They are going on a summer tour, so we kind of hope that the dates match up. He's looking at that now, so we hope to have Otis.
Fantastic.
That would be
That'd be
wonderful. Yeah, so we're working on that, Doc. We seem to have lost James Wright. Hopefully we'll get him back shortly. But also this morning, a panel in California considering reparations for Black Americans released its first report last Wednesday, detailing the harms of slavery in the state that have snowballed over generations. And that's a quote from the task force, have snowballed over generations. In a 500-page interim report, the California Reparations Task Force detailed California's involvement in slavery and how it continues to negatively impact Black Americans. The 9-member panel is the first of its kind in any state. Advocates have been pushing lawmakers to replicate it at the federal level. This is a huge report that came up, 500 pages, Dr. Chavis, and next year is when they're going to determine, or they're scheduled to determine, I should say, exactly what the reparations will be, how much, who gets what.
Well, this research is very important. And that is why the congressional bill sponsored, H.R. 40, sponsored by Sheila Jackson Lee, that was originally sponsored by John Conyers, is so important because you need the data. And of course, what we're finding out, California is leading the rest of the states. We hope that all the other states will follow suit. But by doing this research, you find out how entrenched, how institutionalized, and how intergenerational the impact of the transatlantic slave trade has been on people of African descent here in America, people of African descent in the Caribbean and South America, and still on the continent of Africa. So I think that this is a huge step forward, and we salute the board there in California for making that advance. And we encourage everybody to get go online. Stacey, let's tell people how they can get a copy of the report.
Yeah, the task force does have its a website. Just look at the California Reparations Task Force. Dr. Chavis, the document outlines how Black Americans not only have been harmed by slavery, but political disenfranchisement and labor, housing, education, the criminal justice system, and arts and culture. So we can see the systemic way in which African Americans have been harmed.
Absolutely. It's 360 degrees in every sector of the economy and every sector of just life, human life. No aspect of being a human being was left out of the chattel slave system. And one of the things that these reparations research studies are showing, enormous wealth was generated as a result of slavery. And a lot of the so-called old money in America today, from the East Coast to the West Coast and all that, is derived directly from slavery. The insurance companies, in particular, while the slave plantation owners had insurance policy on every slave, the holders of the policy were in the North.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is just not a North-South thing. Again, that famous quote from Malcolm X: when it comes to the South in America and race issues, the South is there, all states south of the Canadian border.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, James, good to have you back. They also, and I thought it was interesting, we mentioned how they broke it down, how Black Americans have been harmed by slavery, by political disenfranchisement, labor, housing, and what they're doing. This panel is recommending reparations for each category. I thought that was very interesting, James.
I think it's very interesting. I had a chance to peruse the report, and I have to say that I'm a little bit impressed. And when I say a little bit impressed, I mean wholly impressed by what they would do, what they're trying to do in California. And California sets the trend, and hopefully this is a trend that other states will follow. I think it's quite innovative to focus on each of those areas, because each of those areas has its own issues in terms of a Black American life, whether it's housing, schools, education, employment, entrepreneurship, and ways that that can be amended. And, it's interesting we're talking about California, because slavery existed in California in the 1700s, but it wasn't us. It was really the indigenous population there. And it was only until they broke away from Texas and became an independent state that, as you know, California came in as a free state. But there was slavery, even though it was very sporadic, because nobody really kept an eye on that. So this is going to be very interesting. This needs to be modeled by the District of Columbia. It needs to be modeled by the state of Maryland. It should be modeled by all states, and particularly my home state of Texas. But we know where that's going to go. So we've got to have reparations.
Well, the NMPA's executive administrator, just going back to your point, Dr. Chavis, Claudette Perry, says that J.P. Morgan, Aetna, they were primary insurance holders on enslaved Africans. And so when you think about that, you're talking about the state reparations. These companies, shouldn't they be liable for reparations as well?
Yes.
Absolutely. Again, that's the benefit of the research. And it's interesting that while this great research is being conducted, you have other state legislators and governors who are trying to say, oh, that's critical race theory. It's got to be banned. It's got to be outlawed. It's interesting. They are promoting banning smoking menthol cigarettes, which African Americans disproportionately smoke, but there's no ban on assault weapons. There's no ban on killing people. And we have this rash of gun violence going on, where not only African Americans have been disproportionately slaughtered, but their own children are being disproportionately slaughtered, and they just don't care. See, this is the thing. History shows that if you, over a period, we're talking about 500 years now, 5 centuries. We're not talking about something just happened since the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
This is 500 years of deliberate, systematic torture, inhumanity, genocide, all of the things that would make you eligible to be put out of the human race have been enforced, have been institutionalized. And again, the very term reparations also implies that we're going to uncover where all follow the money, follow the gold, follow the diamonds, follow the silver, follow all of the what is called precious metals that have become precious.
Dr. Chavez, let me say that I don't want to interrupt you, but that what you just said, follow the money, and you mentioned diamonds. We had a conversation recently with the ambassador of Botswana. I know you interviewed him as well as I did, and he said something really interesting. And you just jogged my memory when you said follow the diamonds. Doc, you recall that what he said about Great Britain and the timing of them discovering the diamonds?
That's right. They got their independence in 1966. They only discovered diamonds in 1967. And the British now you admit, oh my God, we were going to let these people become independent if we knew they had all these diamonds.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Because the reason why they let them independent because they thought they were an arid desert with no low population. They had exploited them enough. So we can let y'all be free because y'all ain't got nothing.
Got nothing. And they were on a literal gold mine.
They discovered that they're the largest diamond producing nation in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
In fact, one other historical note that James should know that came out during the interview, De Beers, which is one of the largest diamond companies in the world, based in London for centuries, moved its corporate headquarters, fired all the people in London, and moved to Botswana, the capital city of Botswana, and their employees now native Botswanians.
Isn't
so
that
the largest diamond country is also owned by brothers and sisters from Africa.
Oh my goodness!
That just shows you. And so let's go back now. Let's see who owns Aetna. Let's see who owns
J.P. Morgan,
Metropolitan Insurance Company. Come on now. So this is about a dollar figure. This is also about who owns this stuff. So to really be true to reparations, to repair the damage, somebody's got to move over.
Well, just to go along with the previous comment, Claudette Perry says that the courts instructed J.P. Morgan and Aetna them to publicly acknowledge their ties to slavery so people will have the choice to patronize their institutions. We talk about those descendants of slavery. Look, Renee Harrison, I don't know if she lives in California or not, but Renee writes in, the great-grandmother, 1700s, her grandma was in the 1850s, and her mom, 1926. So you know where that legacy is, where that history is. So we're going to continue to follow it, right? Because what California has done, what this task force more specifically has done in California is really, really break everything down. And they did it in categories. That's a 500-page report worth taking the time out to examine the report. A quote from the report that says, after the War of Independence, the American government continued to pass laws to maintain this false racial hierarchy, which treated all Black people as less than human. We
were 3/5 of a human. During the Constitutional Convention, we were 3/5 of a human.
Yeah, 3/5 of a human. And the Black population in California, it's about 6.5% of the state's population. So we're going to see where that goes. Renee says she is Harlem Village, New York City. Absolutely, Harlem in the house. Dr. Chavez, James, you guys are definitely going to be there in New Orleans. Don't forget to go to NMPA-events.com to register and join us in New Orleans for the 195th anniversary celebration conference of the Black Press of America. So many panels, discussions on topics that directly impact Black America will be discussed at the conference, which is titled, I keep doing that. Freedom, Justice, Equality, and Equity is the title of that conference. We're going to talk about a lot of important subjects, but we're not only going to just talk about it, Doc, we're going to dissect it. We're going to look for solutions. We're going to talk about the solutions. What are you looking forward to most? Let me start, Dr. Chambers, before you go, let me ask James. James is going to be there. James, what are you looking forward to most at the conference?
Well, I'm looking forward to the workshops. I love coming to conferences like this. The NNPA, the NAACP, the National Urban League will be in Washington in July. And of course, I hope they bring back the Congressional Black Caucus full throttle in September. But I'm really going to be focusing on the entrepreneurship and in terms of housing, because I don't need to tell both of you guys that the cost of housing is really outrageous now. And we have to find solutions to get people housed, or we'll have more homeless people. And look, the day of just having a job and going to work for somebody else, that's almost going into the sunset. So we need to find ways to support our small and Black businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. The conference dates, it begins June 22nd, June 22nd to June 25th in New Orleans. Doc, I know there's a lot to look forward to.
Yes.
Is there anything
let me break some
specific?
news on Let It Be Known. On Friday, June 24th, at the NNPA National Convention, the Transformative Justice Coalition, that's a group founded by Reverend Jesse Jackson and Barbara Armwine. The NNPA and the Transformative Justice Coalition is going to announce a national campaign, a GOTV campaign, a voter registration campaign that we're going to do in all 50 states. There are 55 million, James and Stacey, 55 million unregistered voters in America. 55 million.
Ooh.
And of the 55 million,
Wow.
10 million are African American, unregistered to vote, but are eligible to vote. So I don't preempt the announcement, but these two organizations, the National Newspaper Publishers Association and the Transformative Justice Coalition, Barbara Anwine will be there, the founder, as well as Attorney Darrell Jones, the chair of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition. We're going to be there, and on that Friday, the day of the Legacy Awards, when our beloved sister Stephanie Mills is going to perform, we're going to make a major announcement at noon that day about what we're going to do solution-wise. And I'm so proud of the Black press of America. We're going to take a lead to correct these statistical injustice. For that many people to be unregistered to vote, yeah. And look how close some of these elections are. I just talked to a sister in North Carolina who won her primary by one vote.
Wow.
One vote. Won the primary by one vote. And we have to remind people here in D.C. and across the DMV, James, if we want to get a statehood for the District of Columbia, we got to get some more senators. We got to get some more people in Congress. So I see 2022 as a year to clean house and to fill house with people who are more aligned to our interests as a people.
Yeah, well, also don't forget to tune in this coming Wednesday on this program. Let it be known, we will have a very special appearance by Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Michael Regan, the first African-American to serve in that role. And I know, again, Dr. Chavis, environmental justice is something that, you have been involved in for decades. And you also recently talked with Michael Regan as well. Lots to talk about with the administrator, isn't it?
Absolutely. We look forward to it. I coined the term environmental racism in 1982. And I'm so pleased that now we have a global movement, not just a national, it's a global environmental justice movement. Started right there in Warren County, North Carolina. These sisters and brothers laid their bodies in front of trucks that had polychlorinated biphenyls, PCB, cancer-causing substances. They were not going to let that be dumped in their communities. And then this evening, just a shout out, Reverend Barbara and I are going to be live this evening at 5 o'clock, Stacey, talking about the March on Washington. So the Black press is busy, man. We're going to be busy in New Orleans, but leading up to New Orleans, we're not missing a beat.
Well, there you have it. We are all looking forward to New Orleans. David Youngblood said he's looking forward to New Orleans as well. He writes in, he's looking forward to establishing new partnerships and collaborations from NMPA and organizations and corporations. So, David, we look forward to seeing you there. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining. Let it be known. Don't forget again, a very special conversation. We want you all to tune in, but we also want you to participate in that conversation with Michael Regan, because it affects us all, as Dr. Chavis has pointed out. Environmental racism, environmental injustice. We need you guys to throw in your questions and concerns to the administrator as well. We'll be live Wednesday morning right here on Let It Be Known. Everyone have a great day, and tune in later at 5 o'clock right on these same channels where you'll see Dr. Chavis interviewing Dr. Barbara. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.